Hello friends, welcome to Life and Money Insights, USA. Today's topic is how small financial habits affect your long-term wealth. This video focuses on everyday choices that often feel harmless in the moment, but slowly shape financial outcomes over many years. The goal is not to judge or pressure anyone. It is to explain how common habits work, why they matter, and what simple awareness can change. Part 1 is designed for beginners. It starts with basic ideas, familiar situations, and clear examples from everyday life in the United States. Most people think wealth is built through big decisions. Buying a house, picking the right investment, getting a higher paying job. Those things matter, but they are not where the story usually begins. Wealth often starts with small habits that repeat quietly every week. These habits rarely feel important, which is exactly why they are powerful. Consider a common example. A daily coffee purchased on the way to work. $5 does not feel like much. Over 1 week, that is about $25. Over 1 month, around $100. Over 1 year, about $1,200. That number surprises many people the first time they see it written out. Did you know that many Americans underestimate their small daily spending by several $100s per month when asked to guess? Small costs are easy to forget because they blend into routine. The point is that repetition turns small amounts into large totals over time. This same pattern applies to food delivery, streaming subscriptions, app purchases, and impulse buys at checkout lines. Let's look at another everyday situation: credit card use. Many Americans rely on credit cards for convenience and rewards. Used carefully, they can be helpful. Used without awareness, they quietly increase costs. Imagine someone who carries a balance of $3,000 on a credit card with a typical interest rate. Making only the minimum payment feels manageable. The balance slowly declines, but interest continues to add up. Over time, the person may pay thousands of dollars extra for things already purchased and forgotten. Small repeated spending and small repeated interest charges both grow quietly. They do not feel dangerous day to day. Another habit worth discussing is saving consistency. That delay is also a habit. Over a year, that is more than $1,000. More importantly, it builds a routine. Habits create momentum. Momentum makes future choices easier. Some employees skip enrollment because contributions reduce take-home pay. What they often miss is the employer match. That match is part of total compensation. Not using it is similar to leaving money on the table, even though it is essentially free money tied to participation. When income increases, spending often increases right along with it. A slightly nicer car, more frequent dining out, upgraded phone plans. None of these are extreme choices on their own. Over time, higher income does not translate into greater financial security. Visualization can help here. Imagine a simple chart with 2 lines. One line shows income rising steadily. The other shows expenses rising at nearly the same pace. The gap between them remains small. That gap represents savings. When the gap does not grow, long-term wealth struggles to grow. Many people avoid looking closely at their finances because it feels stressful or time-consuming. The result is guessing instead of knowing. Tracking does not require complex tools. It can be as simple as reviewing bank statements once a week. Awareness often changes behavior automatically. When people see patterns clearly, they tend to adjust without force. If someone asked you where most of your money went last month, could you answer confidently? Mistakes around small habits are rarely dramatic. They come from assumptions. Assuming small costs do not matter. Assuming future income will fix today's choices. Assuming there will be time later to adjust. The solution at the beginner level is awareness, not perfection. Recognizing patterns is the first step. Asking simple questions helps. Is this expense occasional or repeated? Does this habit move me closer to stability or further away? Another short recap. As we move forward in this series, the focus will shift from awareness to deeper cause and effect relationships. Part 2 will explore how these habits interact, how trade-offs form. For now, remember this: wealth is not only built through big wins. Part 2 continues the discussion by looking deeper at how small financial habits interact over time and why their combined effect matters more than any single choice. In Part 1, the focus was awareness. Seeing small habits clearly. In part those, the focus is connection, how one habit influences another and how cause and effect play out in real life for many people in the United States. A useful way to think about money habits is as a system. No habit exists alone. Spending affects saving. Saving affects borrowing. When one part of the system weakens, the others often follow. At the same time, savings are inconsistent. This creates a loop. From the outside, this may look like a budgeting issue. Here's another example. $15 there. Over time, they form fixed monthly obligations. Fixed costs reduce flexibility. When income stays the same, but fixed costs rise, choices narrow. Saving feels harder. Short-term decisions start to dominate. This is how small habits limit long-term options. Did you know that many Americans pay for multiple subscriptions they rarely use? Often because cancellation feels inconvenient rather than expensive. Person A receives a raise. Half of it goes toward higher spending. Half goes toward automatic savings. Person B receives the same raise. Most of it goes toward lifestyle upgrades, dining out more often, higher car payment. After 5 years, the difference becomes noticeable. The other relies more heavily on continued income. Habits determine how income changes translate into stability or fragility. Convenience. For example, delaying savings feels helpful in the short term. More cash available now. Less pursuer. A simple visualization helps here. Picture 2 lines starting at the same point. The other stays flat for several years, then raises faster. Even if the second line raises sharply later, it often struggles to catch up. Early consistency matters. Not all debt is the same, paying slightly more than the minimum. Using debt strategically rather than emotionally. When people feel overwhelmed, they often avoid looking at balances. Avoidance itself becomes a habit. That habit delays solutions and increases costs. When facing a financial problem, does the response tend to be proactive or delayed? Another common pattern is income dependence. When small habits absorb most available income, there is little margin. This makes people highly dependent on steady paychecks. Any disruption becomes a crisis. On the other hand, even modest emergency savings change behavior. They reduce panic. They allow time to think. They improve decision quality. This is an important cause and effect chain. Small savings reduce stress. Lower stress improves choices. Better choices improve outcomes. Now, let's talk about trade-offs. Every dollar has multiple possible uses. Saving for later. Paying down debt. Trade-offs exist whether acknowledged or not. Many people feel stuck because trade-offs feel invisible. When saving is automatic, spending feels like a choice. Not because it is advanced, but because it changes default behavior. Defaults shape habits. Here is a practical US example. Automatic payroll deductions for retirement plans. People who enroll and automate often report less stress about saving, even though take-home pay is lower. The habit removes repeated decision-making. Another recap point. Habits create systems. Systems create outcomes. Outcomes feed back into habits. By now, it should be clear that small habits are not just about money amounts. They're about structure, timing, and response patterns. In part 3, the focus will move further out. Long-term consequences. Compounding effects across decades. How small habits influence career flexibility, retirement timing, and quality of life later on. For now, remember this takeaway. Changing one small habit can shift an entire system. The earlier that shift happens, the larger the impact tends to be. Part 3 looks at advanced effects of small financial habits and how they shape long-range outcomes across decades. This section connects daily behavior to retirement, timing, career freedom, and overall quality of life later on. At this level, the discussion shifts from monthly choices to lifetime patterns. Small habits do not just add up, they compound. Compounding applies to more than investments. It applies to behavior. A habit repeated for 30 years becomes part of identity. Someone who saves regularly tends to view money differently than someone who saves only when convenient. That mindset influences risk tolerance, job decisions, and stress levels. Consider two long-range paths. One person builds modest buffers early. Emergency savings exist. Retirement contributions start small but stay consistent. Debt is managed with intention. In the first 10 years, the difference may feel minimal. In the next 10 years, the gap widens. In the final 10 years before retirement, the outcomes often diverge sharply. One person has options, the other has constraints. A useful visualization here is a timeline. Early years show small visible differences. Middle years show growing separation. Later years show outcomes that feel irreversible. Another advanced effect is flexibility. Career, burnout. People with stronger habits often have time as a resource. They can pause. They can retrain. They can negotiate. People without buffers often have urgency. Urgency limits options and increases stress. Did you know that many people who retire earlier than planned do so because they built habits that created flexibility, not because they earned unusually high incomes? Let's examine long-term debt behavior. Carrying high-interest debt for years does more than cost money. It shapes future choices. It delays investing. It reduces risk capacity. It increases dependence on steady income. It can mean delaying retirement or relying more heavily on fixed benefits. Now consider the role of inflation. Inflation slowly reduces purchasing power. Habits that fail to account for this create hidden risk. Saving without growth, letting cash sit idle for decades. These choices feel safe short-term but carry long-range consequences. Advanced awareness includes understanding that doing nothing is also a decision. Inertia has outcomes. As spending habits grow, they become harder to reverse. Higher fixed costs reduce adaptability. People who keep lifestyle growth modest often report less anxiety around retirement planning. The required income is lower. This is not about extreme frugality. It is about intentional scaling. Let's connect this to retirement readiness. Retirement is not an age. It is a financial condition. It depends on accumulated resources, spending habits, and expectations. A person who consistently increases spending alongside income may need far more assets to retire comfortably. A person who controls spending growth may need less. Financial stress is linked to decision fatigue and chronic stress. Habits that reduce money stress can improve overall well-being over time. This creates a feedback loop. Better habits reduce stress. Lower stress improves health. Better health reduces unexpected costs. The loop reinforces itself. Emergency preparedness. These are often ignored until late because they feel uncomfortable. Yet small steps taken early simplify later decisions for family members and reduce future burdens. At this stage, the key lesson is perspective. Here is a clear summary of the key points discussed across all parts. 1. Small financial habits repeat, and repetition gives them power. 2. Spending habits shape saving capacity and borrowing behavior. 3. Early consistency matters more than later intensity. 4. Habits interact to form systems that either support or limit flexibility. 5. 6. Awareness creates the opportunity to adjust direction before outcomes lock in. For visualization, this summary could be shown as a simple flow diagram. Habits lead to systems. Systems lead to outcomes. Outcomes reinforce habits. Understanding how habits work allows people to evaluate their own patterns and consider changes that align with their goals. We hope this video was worth your time. Your feedback helps us create more content like this. See you in the next video.